and erase every single video that has Brett Favre's name mentioned in it. So I looked at that, I said, that is hilarious. Of course we're not doing that. I'm getting sued alongside Shannon Sharpe and an auditor from Mississippi by Brett Favre.
Wow. So we have a huge update on the Pat McAfee and Brett Favre situation, enough for me to finally make a video on it. And to be honest, it's going exactly how I expected. So before we get to the content, whenever Aaron Rodgers finally gets traded, we're going to be giving away cash on my Twitter account. All you have to do is follow me and retweet the tweet in the description down below and on your screen. And now that we got all that out of the way, work! Some of the green slips you guys have been sending me is crazy. Like $1,250 off of a $250 slip, or $1,500 off of a $150 power play. We've been making bank off of our basketball picks, bro. March Madness was a huge success, and believe me, we're about to ramp it up for the NBA playoffs. All you have to do is download Prize Picks, use my promo code Microphone, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100 instantly. After that, just follow me on Instagram. I post all of my picks onto my Instagram story for free, and we can start making money off of these picks together. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Oh my god, that voice crack. Let's run it back. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What is up with me today? All right, third time's a charm. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? We'll take it. In order to understand what's truly going on, you have to understand what Brett Favre was accused of back in September. Now, bear in mind, these are allegations, not because I want to get sued by Brett Favre or anything, and that has nothing to do with me calling these allegations, but I will admit the evidence is pretty damning. Pretty much what Brett Favre is being accused of is the fact that he allegedly used welfare funds in order to fund a college volleyball stadium. He allegedly coordinated with the state officials of Mississippi to direct $5 million meant to help the residents of Mississippi, primarily the most poor people in Mississippi, towards funding a volleyball stadium at the University of Southern Mississippi. It's even worse when you consider the fact that Mississippi is the poorest state in the United States of America. I have nothing against the people of Mississippi. I'm sure you guys are incredible human beings. I'm just saying, statistically speaking, Mississippi is unfortunately the poorest state in the United States of America. So pretty much what Brett Favre is being accused of is stealing $5 million from the poorest people of the poorest state in the United States of America in order to build a volleyball stadium at the University of Southern Mississippi. What's even more comical about this is when you look at how much Brett Favre has made throughout his career, this man made upwards of $140 million over the span of 20 years. Now, look, I understand it's not the amount that players are making nowadays. Most quarterbacks make that money in one contract in today's NFL. But you give me $140 million and I think I'll be okay. I think most of us would be okay, assuming we don't spend it frivolously on having like some sort of lavish luxury car collection, which a lot of people that make that type of money are prone to doing. Bear in mind, this is before I bring up all the sponsorships Brett Favre has done, like with Wrangler jeans and various other brands. I'm sure you guys have seen Brett Favre on your TV repeatedly, despite him being out of the NFL for almost 15 years. And it's just crazy because if Brett Favre would have just donated this stadium by himself, we would think he's a great human being. It's a gigantic tax deductible as well. But doing it in this way just made him look like the sketchiest man on earth if these allegations are true. But I'm not saying if they're true or not true. All I'm going to say is there is this one text message exchange from a Mississippi handler and Brett Favre where Brett Favre said, "If you were to pay me, is there any way the media can find out where it came from and how much?" Nancy knew the state handler would say, "No, we never have had that information publicized. I understand you being uneasy about that though. Let's see what happens on Monday with the conversation with some of the folks at Southern. Maybe it will click with them, hopefully." The very next day, Nancy New would text Brett Favre saying, "Wow, I just got off the phone with Phil Bryant. He's on board with us. We will get this done." Brett Favre responding saying, "Awesome, I needed to hear that for sure." Who's Phil Bryant, might you ask? Well, he's the governor of Mississippi. Now, I don't mean to get political. I did have a fairly political tweet recently on my Twitter account, very out of character for me. So this brings us to Pat McAfee's reaction to this. Pat McAfee runs a show similar to what we do here, although on a significantly grander scale, and is a huge inspiration to content creators like me. What I'm trying to say is it's his job to commentate on all things that revolve around the game of football. And whenever you think of Brett Favre, the very first thing you think of is him donning a Green Bay Packers jersey and throwing interceptions or touchdowns, depending on the flip of a coin, in his prime in the 90s and the 2000s. Meaning that Brett Favre is very much tied to the game of football. So with that being said, back when this information came out, Pat McAfee reacted in this way.
They were taking money out of probably the portion of the world that needs it the most. I didn't read all the text messages, but I did see the headlines. Doesn't look good for old Brett.
Yeah, not at all.
Well, Brett should have stole from the people, Brett.
Yeah.
Favre sounds like he's fucked. Gonna have to pay back a bunch of money.
And to be honest, man, I thought it was really funny when they said that Brett Favre was this great mastermind. Like, you would think he's an idiot, but he's actually a mastermind. He's like the next coming of Bernie Madoff. I thought that bit was hysterical. And it's not necessarily a thing that only the Pat McAfee show was covering. We covered it on this channel. Multiple large media outlets covered it. But I think Brett Favre decided to choose a human being that he believed that he could target easily and potentially sue or intimidate to get him to remove his video. Perhaps, I'm not necessarily sure, because very shortly after, Brett Favre would announce defamation lawsuits against Pat McAfee, Shannon Sharpe, and the litigator of the entire situation, Shaud White. And what's really funny about this is Shaud White's reply was exactly what our reply was on this channel. Instead of paying New York litigators, maybe it's better to fully repay the amount of welfare funds that Brett Favre owes the state. Because no matter what ends up happening in this situation, it's gonna make Brett Favre bleed capital. The person that was the most vocal about this situation was Pat McAfee. Shannon Sharpe kept his cards a little bit closer to his chest. Of course, there are clips of him saying that he didn't approve of what Brett Favre did, like this one.
Brett Favre is taken from the underserved. You made $100+ million in the NFL.
But we have an update on Shannon Sharpe as well, which kind of gives you some foreshadowing about what's going to happen with Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee welcomed the lawsuit with open arms by saying this.
Oh, let's ride this. I'm excited to see how it goes. I'll see you in court, pal.
And that's where we stand. We haven't really had an update since then, until now. You see, this is what I mean when I say there's some foreshadowing going on between Shannon Sharpe's case and Pat McAfee's case. And I am by no means a lawyer, but you don't necessarily need to be a lawyer or a genius to figure out what's truly going on here. About 5 days ago, Shannon Sharpe has removed Brett Favre's case against him to federal court, meaning that instead of this case being ruled in Mississippi court, where Brett Favre might have an advantage, given what he's being accused of, given the text messages we've seen, it seems like Brett Favre has connections in Mississippi in order to potentially have things go his way. What they decided to do was dismiss the case out of Mississippi court and have a federal court rule it. And this is coming to us via a lawyer, Mike Florio, saying that since Shannon Sharpe isn't a Mississippi resident, and because Brett Favre seeks more than $750,000, Sharpe has the right to take the case from state court to federal court. Generally speaking, it's better for an out-of-state defendant who is sued in state court to fight in federal court. Indeed, the first page of the civil defense lawyer playbook whenever a client is sued in state court is to see whether there's a way to get the case to federal court. Favre has the ability to send the case back to state court via a motion to remand. That'd be very difficult to do here, given that Favre's lawyer publicly has suggested that the cases are worth millions of dollars. The value of the cases will be for a federal judge and federal jury to decide. And as we've previously explained, it won't be easy for Favre to prove he was defamed under the high standard applicable to public figures, or to prove the difference between his pre-existing reputation and his post-defamation allegedly reputation requires significant financial compensation. So, in translation, pretty much it is very difficult to determine how much of Brett Favre's reputation was ruined based upon what Pat McAfee and Shannon Sharpe said. It's very difficult to quantify that figure, the value of his reputation and how much it took a hit financially, and whether or not that makes sense to sue for the amount that Brett Favre is suing for. As a matter of fact, if you want to compare this case to the defamation case that we're all very aware of, that the plaintiff actually won, Johnny Depp, the difference between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's defamation case versus this defamation case is, in Johnny Depp's situation, you could actually quantify how much money he's lost as a result of Amber Heard defaming him. He lost sponsorships, he lost movie roles, he lost his spot in Pirates of the Caribbean. In this particular case, it's very difficult to prove what Brett Favre lost in this case. Maybe a couple sponsors, perhaps? And here's the thing, Pat McAfee would do the same thing today, saying in a large tweet, "Hello, beautiful people. As of a few moments ago, I have filed for the dismissal of Brett Favre's defamation lawsuit against me in a federal court in the fine state of Mississippi. I very much understand that next to nobody on earth wants to hear more about this type of stuff. So I apologize for contributing more negativity and bullshit into a world seemingly filled with too much of them both to begin with. From the very beginning, I thought the lawsuit against me was a joke, a fugazi, a rib. Today it makes me feel like there has been a true glitch in the simulation. When you read the publicly available filings in the lawsuit against Brett Favre, all the articles from every news source that has basically ever existed, evidence and damning facts of the very sad welfare fraud scandal of Mississippi. New things are still being presented and revealed weekly. Defamation lawsuit from a public figure in sports who's in the middle of it all against a comedic sports show seems a little bit bananas. That's because it is. Annas. As I've come to learn more about all this and experience it from this angle, I've come to realize that historically this will go down as a rather notable attack on the First Amendment and on comedic relief as a whole in our society. I have faith that the federal judge assigned to this case will see this for what it was, an attempt by a public figure to silence folks from talking about their alleged horrendous transgressions. That's not how America works, or supposed to work at least. The team of lawyers that I've had to hire for this entire process, shout out K&L Gates, more specifically Plum High School 05 graduate Sarah Decker, and I are confident in a dismissal, but if not, we are very ready and prepared for the next steps in court. Regardless of what happens legally, I'd like to showcase what our show is actually about and extend an invite to Brett Lorenzo Favre. Brett, match me with a donation to a Big Brothers Big Sisters Foundation in Mississippi. Let's help out the next generation of Mississippians together. Let's give some support to the citizens of your state who might need it a little bit, and let's make something positive out of this sad clown show of a defamation suit with no merit. I appreciate everybody's support through all of this. It has been a bit stressful for me, my pregnant wife, my employees, and their families. We are all very eager for this chapter to be done with. Cheers to everybody, and let's remember to take care of each other and not allegedly, reportedly steal from those who need it most. And then he had a full 25-page memorandum, which will link you to the tweet. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. One, as a huge fan of Pat McAfee, I could tell that the stress is really getting to him. Like, he has a pregnant wife, he has this defamation suit, he has his daily show, he has like SmackDown and whatnot that he does on the weekends in the world of wrestling. WrestleMania is coming around, so that's like their Super Bowl. And I could kind of tell because he did have like a little bit of a disagreement with Brett Coleman, where I personally thought that Pat McAfee acted out of character, and I attributed that to stress, honestly. So far, like, I have no reason to believe that he's not an awesome human being, and I have a great deal of empathy for what I imagine he's going through, because it can't be easy, man. Like, a pregnant wife on top of all of this other stuff. That's why I didn't really make a video on that whole situation, if you guys are wondering, because I also really appreciate both of the human beings involved, and the human part of me kind of took over and felt a great deal of empathy for what Pat is probably going through. But I think this is a remarkable response from Pat McAfee's end. Obviously, he's doing what Shannon Sharpe is doing, but also, in the event that it doesn't get dismissed, the fact that he is trying to donate to the state of Mississippi obviously will put him in some good graces with the state of Mississippi, and the fact that Brett Favre might not be down to donate to the state of Mississippi, given the fact that instead of trying to recoup the amount that he's taken from these people and give it back, he is trying to fight a case which also will make him bleed money. I think this is a brilliant chess move and just an overall great thing to do. Regardless, I have to admit this is a horrible move for Brett Favre altogether. Even if he wins the defamation case, everyone's gonna hate Brett Favre from here on out. Nobody's gonna remember him fondly for the great memories he brought Packers fans. Everyone's gonna think of him as a scumbag and a horrible human being for the fact that, one, what he's alleged to have done with some pretty damning evidence, like Pat McAfee has said, and two, for the fact that he is trying to sue the human beings that commentated over it, which is very unlikely for him to win. But even if he does win, it's just, okay, congrats, you won. People still are not gonna like you for what you did. This could have kind of been swept under the rug, sort of, like, not fully, but it's something that people would have forgotten if it wasn't made into a bigger deal. And it was made into a significantly bigger deal by suing two of the largest public figures in sports commentary. So I honestly don't know what Brett Favre's angle here is, but we will definitely cover it on the channel. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. And aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.